Welcome to the Pandemonium Witches podcast, where the ADHD has just a touch of autism, where the true crime is as scary as the hauntings and unsolved cases. But the hosts never stay on topic for long. I'm Kat.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Em.
And I'm Meg.
Keep your arms, legs, and other extremities in the vehicle at all times, and enjoy the show.
So much excitement! I know. Good morning.
Good morning.
I wonder if it'll let me edit it. I hope so. But
I guess we'll find out.
I'm recording the audio separately, just in case.
That's smart.
Okay. Guten Morgen.
Good morning. Good morning.
Guten Morgen.
A whole bunch of glass.
Oh, yeah?
The parking lots last night because somebody had one of the 6-packs of the Cayman Island margarita bottles. And they also had a 6-pack of the Smirnoff strawberry lemonade.
Of course.
Well, the Cayman bottle box, the bottom gave out. Like, it just, bloop, glue wasn't holding it on anymore. Glass everywhere. And then, I don't know, in the process, they then dropped the Smirnoffs. Glass all over our additional parking. And so when one of my guards called me and was like, Miss Rachel, there's glass all over here. He has a thick accent. Some death. He has a thick accent, though. What I heard was there's glass everywhere, and I knew he was over in our additional parking. My brain went, somebody's window got busted.
Right.
And that there's glass everywhere. No. Just somebody dropped all their alcohol. And so so
there's glass everywhere.
Yeah, and sorry, Mom had messaged me. So I proceeded to help him pick up like all the larger pieces, and then went back, got a broom and a dustpan, and I cleaned up the rest of it. So that way, because they just left it like where it dropped. They didn't make any move to try and clean it up.
Not at all?
It was just not at all. So there was just glass everywhere. And I always forget how far glass can travel when it breaks.
Oh, yeah.
Until I'm actually having to clean it up. And then I'm like, holy shit, why is it so far away from where the actual drop happened?
I wish I could tell you that, but physics.
Yeah. And so I got it cleaned up as much as I could with the broom, the dustpan, and that's all I could do.
Oh my good Lord.
I know.
I'm sorry. I'm eating toast.
Oh, it looks yummy. Especially because it's homemade bread.
Mm-hmm. It's delicious. I didn't ask you who we're doing today because I don't want to know. But
Do you want to know now?
Can I eat?
Yes, I'll let you go ahead and eat.
Oh.
It doesn't get gruesome until close to the end of the story. So,
I mean, it's a true crime podcast. It's going to get gruesome at some point.
This is valid.
This is the Pandemonium Witches podcast. Trigger warning. The following episode contains graphic violence and gruesome depictions. Listener discretion is advised.
Okay. So, who are we talking about?
So she went by, or she was nicknamed many names.
Oh, many names. Okay.
Yep. Hell's Belle, Black Widow, Indiana Ogress, and Mistress of the Castle of Death.
Wait, hold on. Indiana Ogress?
Indiana Ogress.
Ogress. Ogre.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, how fitting after Shrek. And the Madam, what was the last one?
Mistress of the Castle of Death.
I think Elvira would love that.
Right?
We stand for Elvira. We love Elvira. It's mainly the fact that she has very healthy lungs and she is a great actress.
Yeah.
She's a wonderful actress. I love her.
So the county that she had resided in, their historical society museum has a permanent section of their museum dedicated just to her.
What?
Yeah.
No.
She's been the topic of at least 2 American musical ballads, the topic of a couple of movies,
What?
a couple of books. One of which is called In the Garden of Spite, a novel of the Black Widow of Laporte.
In the Garden of Spite?
Uh-huh.
I'm a very spiteful person when I want to be, but that's just... All right. Okay. In Laporte?
In Laporte. Laporte. Laporte, Indiana.
Okie dokie. Indiana. All right. What's going on in Laporte, Indiana?
So she didn't start off in Indiana. She started off in Norway.
Norway.
So she was born with the given name Brynhild Paulsdotter Storsef.
Anytime I hear Brunhild, I think of Young Frankenstein. Brunhilda.
She was born November 11th, 1850, and her possible death was April 28th, 1908.
Possible death?
She might have faked her own death.
Well, okay.
There was never any conclusion to that.
Okay.
So she was Norwegian, became an American. Well, I say became an American. She married an American. She
did
as far
it.
as
God.
she went through an immigration station, but it was the 1800s. Things are different than for immigration.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So she was active in Illinois and Indiana between 1884 and 1908.
So she was active, or she lived there?
She was a serial killer who was active. I'll get into it. I'll explain more. Some sources speculate that her involvement in it as many as 40 murders. 40, which would make her one of the most prolific female serial killers in history.
Well, yeah, 40, that's a giant
big number.
Yeah.
Especially for a woman.
Well, yeah, because women don't, at least from what we've researched, women don't try to make that many waves when it comes to themselves.
Yeah.
They try to be as quiet as possible.
So her parents were Paul and Berit Storsif.
Mm-hmm.
She was the youngest of 8 children and confirmed at the Church of Norway in 1874.
Okay. So she had her confirmation, all right.
Yeah. At age 15, She started working for neighboring farms by milking and herding their cattle to save money for her journey to New York City.
I love that.
So she moved to New York City in 1881.
Mm-hmm.
She was processed by immigration at Castle Garden, which is a sandstone fort within Battery Park at the southern end of Manhattan, and it was the first American immigration station predating Ellis Island.
Yes. And I think it's still there, if I'm not mistaken.
It is a historical site, I believe, now.
Yeah.
At which point she changed her name to Belle.
Oh, B-E-L-L?
Belle.
Oh, que français.
Yeah. So after she got through immigration, she traveled to Chicago to join her sister Nellie, Nellie, who had immigrated to America several years prior to Belle.
Okay.
So while in Chicago, she lived with her sister and her brother-in-law, and she worked as a domestic servant.
All right. Okay.
She then got a job at a butcher shop where she spent her time cutting up the animal carcasses.
Oh, God.
Remember that fact for later.
Oh, no. Anytime you tell me that, okay. All right.
Just a little, and in that little bit of information there.
And okay.
So she was at least 5'7", which is 170 centimeters tall. So fairly tall.
Pretty tall.
Especially for the late 1800s.
Yeah, that was.
And she weighed about 210 to 250 pounds, which is 95 to 113 kilograms.
Okay.
And apparently she was very physically strong in appearance. Well, yeah, of course. She's good, sturdy stock.
She did the cattle thing.
Yeah, so growing up on a farm, working on farms, you become strong.
Yes.
Like, there's no way to get around that.
I do not want to be strong. Like Viking, I want to be strong, like there in woods.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So, now in 1884, she marries Mads Ditlev Anton Sorensen.
Bless you.
So they ended up owning a candy store together, which mysteriously burned to the ground.
Mysteriously?
Mysteriously.
Mm.
So, in 1900, their house also burned down.
Mysteriously.
But both instances granted them insurance payouts because they had insurance on the house and the candy store, so they got the money from it.
Well, okay.
So they supposedly had 4 children together. They possibly fostered/adopt them.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly were biological children. I couldn't find out which ones they were.
Okay.
But 2 babies died in their home due to this before it burned down, due to inflammation of the large intestine, which is also called acute colitis, which can happen from poisoning.
Yeah. Yes, it can.
Caroline passed in 1896, and little brother Alex passed in 1898. So 2 years.
Poor muffin.
Belle had insured both children and collected a large insurance check after each death.
I'm seeing a trend here.
And of course, like neighbors do, they gossiped. They gossiped about the baby since Belle never appeared to have been pregnant. They gossiped about the fact that the house burned down and the candy store burned down. And Oh no, like they're just wrought with so much, horrible things that are
Bad luck.
happening, and
Yeah.
because that's what neighbors do. They gossip. So after that, Belle had to set her sights on somebody else. It's either the two remaining children or her husband.
So she was going to pick one?
Oh, she did.
Oh, God. Please tell me it was not the children.
The remaining two children's names are Myrtle and Lucy.
Myrtle.
And then husband Mads.
Max?
Mads. M-A-D-S.
M-A-D.
Norwegian.
Okay.
So he had one insurance policy on himself.
Right.
Belle convinced him that it wasn't enough money to take care of her and the girls, and that he needed to take out a bigger, secondary, bigger policy.
What was it, like $20?
I'll get to that in a moment.
Oh no.
So July 30th, 1900 was the only day that the policies overlapped, as one would expire at the end of that day and the other would pick up.
Mm-hmm.
Mads died of a cerebral hemorrhage on that one day.
Good God.
She told authorities that he had come home with a headache and that she had provided him with quinine powder for his pain.
That's essentially like cocaine. I'm sorry.
And later on went to go check on him, only to find him dead. And his cause of death was listed as heart failure. Well, no shit.
No shit, dude. Like,
She then tried to blame the pharmacist that gave her the medication, that he must have switched it with something else.
No, what? No. I don't.
Because I would never kill my husband. I loved him.
Allegedly.
Mm-hmm. So Belle ended up collecting the money from both policies because it was the one day they overlapped, which totaled of $5,000 each.
This was in the early 1900s, right?
1900 exactly.
That is a lot of money.
Nowadays, I did the math. I did it. I did the calculator. Today's money, it would be $187,008.93.
Holy Toledo!
It's a chunk of change.
That's more than some fucking change. I can get a whole fuckload of buses. Let me tell you. Not
to mention the money that I'm sure she squirreled away from, the house burning down and
the other
candy store burning down.
Yeah.
So that was unknown amount of money. So add that to, almost $100,000. Like,
good.
That's a chunk.
That's a big chunk.
So with all this insurance money, she and the girls then moved to Porte, Indiana, and bought a 48-acre pig farm.
Pig farm.
Pig farm.
Can I tell you something real quick about pigs?
Yes.
Did you know that they eat everything?
They do.
Except sometimes for the teeth, depending if they have fillings or crowns.
Mm-hmm.
They eat everything, and I do mean like.
Oh, I know. Oh. There was a whole Criminal Minds episode about that.
Oh, I know. I did research. I deep dived after that episode.
Yeah. Yep, and that's how I learned about Belle, and she became one of my special people because it just, in my head, never went away.
I mean, we talked about people that we kind of get, like, not attached to, but, like, they're our special interest, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. I have a couple of those.
So in November of 1901, Belle, Myrtle, Lucy, and at this point has a new foster daughter named Jenny Olson.
They just keep giving her Chicago. Kids?
Yeah, well, because it's a good Christian home, and she needs help with the two younger girls, so we'll put, an older girl in there to help her. And
look, some of the nicest Christians are covered in tattoos, and some of the worst Christians go to church every Sunday. All right?
Facts.
Jesus Christ, literally. Okay.
So, April of 1902. Well, it's also said that Belle moved out of Chicago because the neighbors wouldn't stop talking.
Well, yeah, because people keep dying around her.
Yeah.
It's like, welcome to the Lord of the Flies.
Right? So because of it, she left.
Okay.
Unfortunately, with 3 girls in tow.
Uh-oh.
So Belle met and married her second husband, Peter Gunness, in April 1902.
Run, Forrest.
Peter's first wife had died recently and left him with 2. I can only find documentation for 1 daughter, but there might have been 2.
Oh, no.
And they were young.
Oh, no.
She's collecting them like I collect rocks.
You love collecting rocks.
I do. And this is how she's collecting bodies.
Oh, man. It's like the demon barber of Fleet Street all over again.
Yes.
Okay.
The following week after they got married, while Peter was out of the house, his infant daughter died of unknown causes while in Belle's care.
What the fuck?
1 week married. Already killing people.
Oh my God, the laundry is terrible. I must get everything.
It's unknown to what happened to the other daughter, if she even existed. But she probably ended up sharing the same fate as her sister and step-siblings.
I hate this. Thank you.
Peter then died.
No!
8 months later.
Great. It's just...
This time, instead of poisoning, to a skull injury.
She changed her... Okay.
Belle told authorities that he died, or that he... Not that he died. Well, obviously he died. That he was reaching for something on the high shelf in the pantry, and the meat grinder fell on him and smashed his skull.
Hold on, I don't think I heard you right. He was reaching on the cabinet.
He was reaching to a high shelf.
Tall-ass man.
And
it fell.
Proceeded to fall and hit him, smashing his skull.
I don't think that's how that works, Belle.
I mean, either way, his skull got smashed. He died.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't think that's no.
So the district coroner convened a coroner's jury because he was a little suspicious.
It was a little sus.
Because the meat grinder, supposedly was on a wobbly shelf. That's how it fell. He must have bumped the shelf and it fell and hit his head. Are you good?
I had an itch on my foot.
Okay.
And I'm literally...
What are you doing?
I couldn't reach... Okay, guys, for what you don't know, Rachel is 5'7", 5'8".
Mm-hmm.
I'm a whopping 5 foot. I have longer legs than I do arms. My arms are perpetually shorter than the rest of my body. My
a big head and little arms.
Thank you. All right. So, of course, when I have to itch something, I can never fucking reach it.
Yes.
So I have little tools.
Scratchers.
Yes, to reach said areas. I get my height from my mama. Okay. I'm fine.
You really did, though.
Unfortunately, I did, yeah.
Okay, so the coroner conveyed a jury.
Right.
Because he was suspicious.
Understandably so.
But nothing came out of it. And so he ended up describing the incident as a little queer, or those terms nowadays would be, that's odd.
I'm a little queer.
I'm a little queer. I know, I giggled about that.
Yeah.
But overall, wrote it down as it being an accident.
Right.
Because he couldn't exactly prove that she did it.
But there's like some serious hinky stuff going on where he's going, that just doesn't match up.
Yeah, but he had to have evidence to suspect her of murder, and
tomato.
Nobody else was believing
tomato. Right, I know, but still. Murder is bad.
She had an insurance policy on her second husband.
What the okay. All right. Mm-hmm.
Or he might have had it on himself. I don't know.
Okay.
Either way, she collected $30,000, which in today's money is $187,008.93.
What the fuck?
Wait.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not the right amount because I have that as the $5,000. I just realized that was the same amount.
Do you want me to look?
Yes, please.
All right, hold on.
I was like, because one of those numbers ain't right.
Okay.
But I mean, inflation might have changed. So, I mean,
okay, so what year was it?
So first death was 1900.
And what amount was it?
5,000.
Oh, I don't think it'll let me go back that far.
No, I think like it stopped me at like 1912.
1913.
So I had to like, yeah.
All right. So if we just did 1913, let's just do that. It'd be $159,085 and 80 cents.
Okay. No. Either way, it's still a lot of money.
It's still a fuck ton of money.
But also, I think like the time difference, like the percentages changed. Like they about stayed the same.
They change by like 1 to 2% every year.
Mm-hmm.
So like the money last year, it inflated by like 1% or 2%. I can't remember my my economics teacher is probably like screaming her head off right now. Catherine, I told you 1,000,000 times. Yeah.
Well, I didn't need it at the time, so I just out the window.
Right out the brain.
Anyways, so she collected a large chunk of change from her second husband's death. So, you remember Jenny?
Yeah.
She had told schoolmates, my mama killed my papa.
Ooh.
She hit him with a meat cleaver and he died. Don't tell a soul.
Oh, no, she didn't.
Well, because she saw what happened, Belle had to get rid of her. Her body was found on the property in the hog pen years later. But she told people who asked, because at this point Jenny had a beau, and Beau, was calling because he wanted to marry Jenny, and she ended up telling her that, I sent Jenny off to finishing school in California. She went to school in California. She'll be back later once she's done out there, just to get rid of him.
Right.
Eventually, he gave up, and so she didn't have to worry about it anymore. But either way, she was lying to people about where, poor Jenny was.
Right.
So, 1905, literally, we're moving along pretty quickly, a couple years apart. Belle began placing marriage ads in Norwegian language newspapers to find a new companion.
She's just gonna kill him too.
Oh, she does. Everybody that shows up. Except for one.
No.
One survives.
Oh,
Prove it
okay.
to him.
Okay. Wait. Okay. I thought. Okay. Never mind.
No, she kills all but one. And that's because she scared the crap out of him in the middle of the night, leaning over his bed, and he got the hell out of Dodge. Bless you.
Thank you. Oh, on both sides. Thank you.
So do you want to know what her ad said?
Yes, please. Is it translated?
Oh, no, she posted it in English. Or at least the translation I got was English. So it says, personal, comely widow who owns a large farm in one of finest districts in LaPorte County, Indiana, desires to make the acquaintance of a gentleman equally well provided with view of joining fortunes. No replies by letter considered unless sender is willing to follow answer with personal visit. Triflers need not apply.
Oh. That sounds kind of sketchy, like that one guy that I did. What's his face?
We've done a lot of guys.
H.H. Holmes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she seduced the replying bachelors with promises of Norwegian home cooking and painted a very seductive picture of the life they joined together because they would exchange very spicy letters back and forth.
Oh, she was a bit of a hussy then. You can't see my reactions with those on. I don't have the blue light reflectors on. Can actually see my eyeballs in this one.
I mean, I could see your eyeballs before, but that's only because I knew where to look. So, because these men were lonely Norwegian bachelors, most of them cut off from their families because they came over to make money to bring the rest of their families back.
Right.
So these men jumped at the chance. And they jumped at this opportunity because home cooking, like Mama makes, okay.
Run, Forrest, run!
So the list of her victims, but not all of them, is, and it's not in alphabetical order.
Okay.
So there's John Moo, M-O-O, which is kind of funny considering she used to work on a cow farm. And a butcher.
The cow farm. There's going to be cows outside. Sorry.
Henry Gerholt.
Mm-hmm.
Olaf Svenherd.
Olaf.
Ole B. Budsberg.
Okay.
Olaf Lindblom. In Norwegian and Swedish, they they repeat the same names.
Yeah.
And then Andrew Hegelin.
Okay.
Hegelin.
Hegelin.
Hegelin. Hegelien.
Hegelin. All right.
Yeah. So Henry, because I'm just going to refer them by their first name because last names are hard.
Last names are hard.
So Henry was a Wisconsin farmhand.
Mm-hmm.
He traveled to LaPorte and wrote back to his family saying he liked the farm, he was in good health, and asked that they send him seed potatoes to plant.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When his family didn't hear from him after that, they contacted Belle because they knew that's where he was going.
Right.
She told him he had gone off with horse trailers to Chicago. but she kept his trunk and fur coat.
No.
He just disappeared. I don't know what happened. He just left his stuff here. I don't know.
Nope. Mm-mm. I don't believe it.
John, who was of Minnesota, this time I actually got a date, 1906.
Okay, 1906.
They corresponded for several months. John traveled to LaPont and withdrew a large amount of cash.
Okay.
What does Belle like? She likes cash.
She likes money.
Even though nobody ever saw him again, a carpenter who did occasional work for Belle saw John's trunk in her home, along with more than a dozen others.
Oh, hell no.
She collects things, including money.
Including people. Their corpses.
Oh.
This is like Ed Gein.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
So the one man that survived was George Anderson.
Okay.
He came to Belle's farm with money and a hopeful heart because he was looking for love in all the wrong places.
Looking for love in all the wrong places. I'm sorry.
And he woke up one night to Belle leaning over him as he slept. He was so startled by the look of her in her eyes, apparently it was a very ravenous look, that he immediately left.
Good.
Grabbed his shit and left.
Good.
Did not wait till morning. Threw his stuff on his back and took off.
Just ran out. Good for him.
And because of that, it saved his life.
Oh.
So, neighbors started to make note of Belle spending an unusual amount of time with her hogs in their pens at night.
That, unless she had,
it's very unusual.
Right, because they're normally, like, not nocturnal creatures.
No.
Unless,
So why would she be, mucking around their pen at night?
Right. That's not...
People in town also started noticing she was spending an awful lot of money on wooden trunks and duplicates of things. Why would she need these things?
Right.
Because it starts getting obvious when you're every week coming into town and buying the same things.
Oh,
and
no.
not just like food stuff. Stuff that, you would buy like a couple of and eat that for a while.
Right. Like trunks.
Exactly. The townspeople also said that she could lift things like a box of marshmallows. Like it weighed nothing at all. So she was
hefty.
Thick with muscle.
Okay.
So one of the farmhands later told the New York Tribune that Belle had men visitors all the time. That a different man would come nearly every week to stay at the house. Which, at that point, it's scandalous. How, she's letting him sleep in the house with her. Like,
what a hussy.
But she would introduce them as cousins. That, this is my male cousin, my male relation from Kansas, South Dakota, Wisconsin, and from Chicago.
No.
But you remember the children she has?
Yes.
She would make sure the girls stayed away from these male relations. If those are actually her cousins, why are the girls not,
in the room?
Spending time with them?
Right.
Nope. Couldn't. She kept them separated.
Okay.
So Andrew was her last visitor and victim.
Oh, poor Andrew.
Well, last male victim.
No, come on. Okay. All right.
So he arrived at Belle's farm in January of 1908.
Mm-hmm.
Literally every single year at this point, killing somebody.
Right.
They had exchanged very spicy letters.
Okay.
In one, Belle said, "We shall be so happy when you once get here. My heart beats in wild rapture for you, my Andrew. I love you. Come prepared to stay forever." Well, little did poor Andrew know, forever meant actually forever.
Right. It meant forever.
It means you're going to be tied to this ground forever.
Tied underneath the fucking floorboards. Jesus Christ.
No, just the hog pen, not the floorboards.
Well, you know what I mean.
But Andrew didn't have his cash with him, so she had to kind of string him along once he got there to make sure that he would
Go and get the money.
give her the cash in hand as a promise of good faith that this is my money. I love you. I do want us to spend time, the rest of our lives together, sign of good faith, because that's what she was doing with all these men. She was having them bring large sums of money to her as signs of good faith that, they weren't going to leave her destitute, because she's just a poor widow with, these young children to raise. And she, yeah, she played a whole game.
I'm sorry. My emotions came out on my face. I apologize. It was more of...
I'm just glad everybody else can see this now.
That was a... Excuse me?
Yeah. So because Andrew didn't have cash in hand, like she had requested them to do when they arrived, which is why the other men were only lasting a week.
Right.
Andrew spent 2 weeks with Belle before having money sent from his bank in Aberdeen to the First National Bank in LaPont.
Mm-hmm.
LaPorte? LaPont.
LaPorte.
LaPorte. Both Belle and Andrew went to cash the check. Both the bank and Andrew suggested putting some of the money, leaving some of it in the bank, for safety, because withdrawing, cashing this large amount of money is dangerous.
Right.
You could be robbed, like anything could happen. Belle insisted on taking all of it in cash, right then and there.
Mm-mm.
Andrew was killed the following day.
Let's see, It's just tasteless. I know all of this is tasteless, but I mean, like, she just... Okay.
So, Andrew was fairly close with his brother, Asle. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Asle.
Sure,
Sounds
Asle.
right.
Okay.
So when, so he had sent letters back and forth to his brother,
Mm-hmm.
Saying, "Oh, I love it here. This, I think this would be really good for me." I'm kind of paraphrasing here. It's like,
right, usual stuff.
There was conversation back and forth. Well, when the time frame that Andrew was supposed to come home to South Dakota arrived and went, his brother became worried and became concerned. Like,
as you do.
I haven't heard from him recently. He didn't arrive back on the train.
Mm-hmm.
What is going on? Something's going on. And so at that point, he finds the correspondence between Andrew and Belle. And he's like, okay, this is why he went here. And, he then reached out to Belle to find out why his brother wasn't answering him.
Right.
She suggested that Andrew had gone to Chicago or even back to Norway. Obviously, Azel didn't believe her because that's his brother. Like, he, his brother wouldn't just do that without telling him.
Right.
So Azel also reached out to the bank, which confirmed that Andrew had been there, confirmed that, that he and Belle had came and went with his large amount of money, but they don't know what happened after that.
Right.
So among the letters, because Andrew had kept everything, thankfully, it included petitions for Andrew to relocate to the farm, to bring money, and to keep the move a secret.
Right. Like that never pans out for anybody.
Right. Well, because Andrew kept all of the letters from Belle, Azel was able to
piece together,
kind of follow the breadcrumbs a little bit. So Azel informed Belle that he would be coming out to the Porte to look for his brother because that's the last place he was seen. I want to find my brother. I'm coming out.
Right.
Belle didn't like that.
Obviously not. She's going to get caught.
During this time, Belle had a hired hand / on again, off again lover.
Okay. Yeah. He's not dead at this point.
Oh no, Andrew by this point is dead.
No, I'm saying the lover. The lover is not dead at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So Ray Lamphere. Lamphere? Yeah. Belle hired him in August of 1907. They were on again, off again lovers. He would get jealous whenever she would have the men there.
Let's try this again.
Do I have to start all over?
Nope.
Oh, thank God.
Nope. What I did is I just was like, why is this all the way down at 48%? It's always been all the way up at 100. So I don't understand. Yeah. And it's because the loudness normalization, I have to go into the settings tab and fix this. It would suck if we had to do that all over again. I wouldn't do that to you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I appreciate it myself.
So Ray had hoped to marry Belle and become a partner of her farm, or at the farm.
Okay.
Belle fired Ray February of 1908.
Okay.
And after she fired him, Belle painted him as a jealous ex-lover / farmhand who went mad because she had fired him.
No.
She even went as far as to tell this to an attorney in April of 1908 before the fire happened.
What the hell?
She went to the attorney claiming she needed to make a will because Ray had threatened her life. This man is out to get me. I fear one of these nights he will burn my house to the ground.
That's not how that works.
And after leaving the lawyer's office, she went to the store, bought toys for her children, and 2 gallons of kerosene.
Of course she did, because we already know what's going to happen.
And that very night, the farm was set aflame. Well, the farmhouse was set aflame. Not the rest of the farm, just the farmhouse.
Just the farmhouse, just that one little bit.
It's one little bit. So at this point, she had a new farmhand named Joe Maxson.
Mm-hmm.
He woke up on the 28th of April, 1908, at about 4 a.m. with a smell of smoke. He attempted to wake Belle and the children due to the house being on fire.
Mm-hmm.
He was unsuccessful And so instead, he went into town to get the fire department.
Oh. Oh, please tell me what I think is going to happen is going to happen.
What do you think is going to happen?
She's going to get caught.
That afternoon, the bodies were found in the ruins of the basement.
Ah!
The bodies of 3 children were found next to a headless woman.
Oh, no. I got excited for the wrong thing. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
God.
Ray was, because how Belle had painted him to the town, Ray was arrested for arson and murder. He was found guilty of arson, but he was cleared of the murder charge.
Of course.
Because Ray has nothing to lose now.
Right.
Later confessed that Belle had placed the advert seeking male companionship only to murder and rob the men who answered and showed up to the farm. They ain't got nothing to lose now.
Right. He's like, I have nothing to be afraid of. Watch me. Don't believe me, just watch. Come on.
He also stated that Belle had asked him to burn the house down with the children inside.
What? No.
That the body that was thought to be Belle's was in fact a murder victim who was chosen and planted to mislead investigators.
Of course it was.
Well, which could have been possible.
Mm.
But there were some discrepancies between the body that was found and how Belle's physical appearance was.
Okay.
So there was just no head.
Oh God. Okay.
Body just didn't have a head.
Oh God.
So they couldn't ID her because of her face.
With no dome.
Or her dental retinal. Yeah. Just head gone.
Just gone.
According to Ray, Andrew's brother's impending visit is what made Belle destroy her house, fake her death, and flee the States.
Of course, because that makes sense.
But when Ray was arrested, he was wearing John's coat and Henry's watch.
She kept trophies.
Of course she did. She literally kept their whole trunks in the house.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, I'm saying, like, they're Criminal Minds, NCIS, they would give trophies to people they saw every day so they could relive.
Mm-hmm.
That is sick.
So, authorities believed that the headless adult woman to be Belle, but further investigation proceeded to unearth the partial remains of at least 11 additional people on the property.
What the hell?
So, after the fire, the town's police was contacted by Azel after reading about the fire in the newspaper because he hadn't arrived yet.
Right.
So he arrived in town shortly afterwards to help the authorities sort through the rubble because he was still looking for his brother.
Right.
At the end of the day, he was still looking for his brother.
He was still trying to find him.
He said he could not leave without looking harder for his brother, even though he almost gave up a few times. So he decided to visit the farm with Joe, the now former hired hand, and asked Joe if he knew of any hole or dirt that had been dug up about the place in the springtime, because it was about time his brother visited.
Right.
Joe knew exactly where Azel was talking, because Belle had asked him to level over a dozen soft depressions, telling Joe that it was just buried trash. Because that's what she did back then. You
buried your trash.
Yeah, so she's like, oh, it's just trash, Don't worry about it. I just need you to level it so that way it's all smooth again.
Right.
Well, Joe coming forth with this information led authorities to start paying attention to these soft depressions scattered
Mm-hmm.
over the farm, especially in the area that had been made into a hog pen.
Okay.
After briefly digging into one of said depressions, an oozing gunny sack was found containing 2 hands, 2 feet, and 1 head.
No.
Which poor Azel recognized to be his brother.
Poor Azel.
I mean, on one hand, at least he has answers, but at the same time...
There's his hands. Sorry.
And his head, and his feet.
Just...
So, authorities ended up digging up all of the farm. Because they're like, we don't know what's here or not anymore. So the sites ended up revealing that there were dozens of such slumped depressions in the yard. Further digging investigation at said sites yielded multiple burlap sacks containing torsos and hands, arms hacked from the shoulders down, masses of human bone wrapped in loose flesh that dripped like jelly. This was a direct quote. From the trash-covered depressions that turned out to be their graves.
Thanks, I hate it.
In each case, the bodies had been butchered in similar manners. Remember? She worked as a butcher. She worked in a butcher.
Right.
So the body decapitated, the arms removed at the shoulders, and legs severed at the knees. What does that sound like? Slices of meat.
Yep.
Blunt trauma and gashes characterized the skulls that were found separated from the bodies.
I hate it. Thank you.
I did too. Lucas Riley, quoting the Chicago Inter-Ocean, I don't know what I was trying to put, but I think autocorrect changed it because it says in mental floss. No, Christian was supposed to be there.
This isn't an episode
anyway.
of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. We don't have mental floss.
I wish sometimes.
I know, seriously.
Noted that the bones had been crushed on the ends as though they had been struck with hammers after they were dismembered, and that quicklime had been scattered over the faces and stuffed in the ears.
We talked about this on a previous episode with H.H. Holmes. Quicklime does nothing. It preserves it.
But back then, they thought it sped up decomp. It's not until, like, I don't know, 21st century or something, we realize, oh, wait, that doesn't do that. It doesn't work like we thought it did. So after finding parts of 5 bodies on the first day, they found an additional 6 on the second. Some were found in shallow graves under the original hog pen, and others found near an outhouse or a lake. Police stopped counting, but more than 40 men and children's remains were found.
I'm sorry. They stopped counting?
Mm-hmm. Because I'm sure trying to piece together, this is one whole body, this is a whole body, because she chopped them up. So,
right.
Having to try and figure it out, I'm sure they just got disgusted.
They were just like,
sick.
I'm done with this. You can
pretty much. So, with all these new discoveries, the perceptions of Belle, as reported in newspaper descriptions of a praiseworthy woman dying in the fire that consumed her house in a desperate attempt to save her children, were reassessed. because that's how they painted her originally after the fire. Until all these bodies started coming to light, like they do. The skeletons in the closets come out, guys.
They do. They really do. And I mean, if you think you're trying to pull a fast one,
you're not.
You're not. You're really not.
So, despite the initial success with identifying Andrew, and despite the fact that widening news coverage of the mass murders, most of the remains could not be identified. Even though there was invited inquiries from families with men who had gone missing.
And how many, like, it's the situation with Ed Kemper, like, how many missing people
had just dropped off the face of the earth and nobody reported?
Right.
Jenny's body was one of the few that had been identified. And at this point, Belle was recognized as being behind the murders.
Of course.
Because now they're adding things together. They're like, this okay.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but it's like that one guy from, what is it, Parks and Rec or whatever, and he's pointing to the board, and it's like full of the pictures, that one meme you sent me.
String theory of all the connected spots. That is my string theory, is push pins with strings connected to each other.
Good God. Like, I know there's more. Because there's always more.
Of course. I would not be done if there was not more.
Right. It would not be us if there... but wait. There's more.
There's more. Because there's always more.
There's always more.
So, Edward Beachley, who was a journalist, was given a secret assignment to acquire access to a confession from Ray and to publish it.
Okay.
Basically to bring a second inconsistent account to light from Ray.
Okay.
The second account is based on the report that Ray had contacted Reverend Edwin Schell and had provided with him an oral confession that the Reverend transcribed and had Ray sign. Because,
as you do.
You know.
Right.
Yeah. The document the Reverend had sealed in his personal safe and would not let go because it's a confession. Like, it is, I don't know if the Reverend was, like, because I don't know details,
right.
But if it's anything like the Catholic confessionals, whatever is said in the boxes stays in the boxes. It does not, it goes out of the boxes straight to God. That's it.
That's essentially what it is.
Yeah. So, and him just writing it down was just that way Ray could look it over and go, yes, this is what I said, and sign it.
Right.
So Edward attempted to get the Reverend to allow him to publish Ray's confession, but was denied by the Reverend and his wife. They're like, nah, fam.
Nah.
You ain't doing that.
Nah.
A second newspaper published a story with speculation regarding the second confession, described as worried as to the peace of the victims' families. The Reverend offered the confession to Edward, which was later published. So finally he was like, I cannot have this on my conscience anymore. For the peace of the victims' families, I will let you do this.
That's huge.
Yeah. Ray proceeded to die in prison.
Oh, good. Good.
Are you good? That was a little tart?
Yep. I'm fine.
I was like, it's either really tart or really cold.
Well, the cold doesn't affect me. It's the
cold doesn't bother you anyways?
Cold never bother me anyway. No. No, bitch.
Supposedly, Ray had admitted to a fellow inmate before he died that he and Belle had killed 42 men together.
Wait, hold on. 42. So there was 40 men and children.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, if you consider like her first two husbands too, but that was men together. But so I was like, okay, 42. Okay, well, including her first two husbands, that would make sense.
Yeah, that matches out.
But her and Ray together killed 42. And some of that adding up.
The math ain't math in here.
He said that she would spike their coffee, bash their heads, cut up their bodies, and put them in sacks. And then he would do the planting.
Planting?
Because he would dispose of the bodies.
I know, but that...
He would plant them in the ground.
Ew.
So, the Beachley narrative, Edward, the journalist, entitled Lanfear's Confession, contains the following summary from Edward. In the confession, Ray said that he had killed Mrs. Gunness and the children with an axe, sprinkled the bodies with kerosene, and set fire to them in the house. It gave details of the slaying and told of his part in the former murders which occurred at the farm, his task usually being the burying of the bodies in the garden. The essential fact, however, was that the murderess was not alive as a fugitive. The publication of this confession resulted in the subsequent arrest of his accomplice, Elizabeth Smith. Because he had to have somebody to help him. But the inconsistencies between his two confessions, the matter of Belle's survival, remained historical issues that were never fully resolved.
Good God.
Belle was pronounced dead, although the doctor who did the post-mortem testified that the headless body was 5 inches shorter and about 50 pounds lighter than Belle.
So it wasn't her.
No explanation was provided as to what happened to the body's head.
It wasn't her.
Because it's just missing a whole head here. Like, which, I mean...
How could you make a positive identification?
5 inches shorter.
Right.
And 50 pounds lighter. Your head don't weigh 50 pounds. If it does, you should probably see a doctor about that.
Right, I was going to say. I was like, I mean, if it did...
You got some issues and you need to see medical help.
Right.
ASAP.
You need to see a doctor. So he was just like, yeah, that looks about right. That's her.
Well, he made note of it, but everybody's like, oh, yeah, no, that's Belle. That's Belle. Because they just wanted to close a case closed. Like, that's it.
That's not how... Look, guys, that's not how this is done.
That's how it works at all, guys.
It's like that lady with the Facebook wall all over again. That's not how this is done.
So, if Belle died in the fire or escaped remains uncertain to this day. The sheriff blamed a Chicago American reporter for the invented story of Belle escaping the fire.
But her... Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So reported sightings of Belle in the Chicago area continued for a long time after she was declared dead, which I think the sheriff just was like, doctor, just declare her dead so they shut up.
Right.
Police would look into all the reported sightings, but none led to apprehension, so he's like, just cut it there.
Right.
Literally. In 2008, DNA was performed on the headless body, because DNA.
Right.
And a sample from a letter Belle had sent to victim, because she had licked the envelopes. So they're like, okay, saliva, DNA.
Right.
However, due to the age of the sample from the letter, it was not able to be properly tested.
Damn.
After Belle's crimes came out in the open,
Mm-hmm.
the farm became a tourist attraction. Because, of course, it did. Because looky-loos want to see everything.
We, I consider myself a looky-loo because I always want to see why it happened or how it happened.
But literally, this was like
right when it
not
happened.
that long after, like, all these things had happened.
I at least have some most respect for the dead. I'm not going to go, like, right away and be like, what happened?
Right. Sightseers came from all over the country to see the mass graves, and concessions and souvenirs were sold.
What?
You want to know what concessions were sold?
Oh, God. No, but you're going to tell me anyway. Oh.
Popcorn, cake, and a Guinness stew.
Okay, Guinness. Okay, I'm not going to not Guinness stew. Guinness stew is delicious.
Gunness, because of her last name.
I'm going to puke.
They did a play on words.
I'm going to puke. Okay.
The crime became an acknowledged part of the area's history. And like I said earlier, the local historical society museum has a permanent Belle exhibit. Permanent, like.
No.
It's on their website and everything.
No thanks. I'm good.
So, like I said earlier, she's been the topic of at least two American musical ballads. The movie Method, 2004, was shot in Romania, starred Elizabeth Hurley as Rebecca, who portrays Belle in a film.
Okay.
In 2017, My Favorite Murder was a I don't know, they might be still true crime podcast covered and later released a live episode covering Belle's crimes.
They did. And I'm actually blowing up the pictures so we can screenshot it.
I shrunk them down so that way they weren't like taking up a whole page each.
Oh no, you're fine. So what I'm doing is I'm just gonna here.
No, it's fine. Then the movie The Farm came out in 2021, starring Tracy Lords, is based on Belle's story.
Oh, okay. I think I remember that one.
Hell's Princess, The Mystery of Belle Gunness, Butcher of Men, came out in 2018, is a non-fiction book by Harold Schuster, based on Belle's life.
Thanks. I hate it.
In the Garden of Spite, a novel of the Black Widow of Porte, came out in 2021, is a U.S. published novel by Camilla Bruce with elements of Norwegian, noir, and true crime based on Belle's life. It was then published in the UK with the title Triflers Need Not Apply.
Seriously?
Yeah. A 2023 Norwegian novel is called My Men by Victoria Killand.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fictionalized version of Belle's life.
Good God.
And the last one is Bajo Terra Seca. I have no clue if I'm saying that right. It's a 2024 novel by Cesar Perez Gagilda, and was awarded the Spanish Premio Nalda, and was inspired by the history of Belle.
Chimney. I don't. For someone who is this calculated, sorry, I'm saving the photos. For someone who is this calculated, it's actually, I've already saved the photos apparently. Saved on my computer, so when I do the edits and I put the videos up, I gotta figure out how to do that. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. What'd you think of that last photo?
The fire.
Oh, no, sorry, the teeth.
I didn't get to that part yet. Okay. So, oh my God. That's her teeth?
Allegedly.
Those aren't her teeth. Oh God.
They're allegedly her teeth because, again, never found a head, but I think those were fake teeth.
Yeah, they look like fake teeth because they're not somebody who's
There's no roots or anything.
There's no roots. And you can see at the end, if you look at the tooth, it's like, well, it's a thing, it's like a fake cap. So when they made those teeth, when they originally made them, they didn't make them with hooks like they do today, where it's like, and they they would have like a little fake tooth at the bottom made out of like porcelain or ceramic, and it would just pop onto your tooth and you could just pop it in and out. Yeah. Hold on, I'm still looking at the photos.
No, it's fine.
That farm, that looks like someplace I would want to live personally, but not on a pig farm. But
no. Like, it was 48 acres. Like,
right. And
it was a large chunk of land.
They're standing in the pig pit, because that's what a pig pit looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Investigators search for more bodies on... I'm sorry. There's a lot.
What do you think about that first photo where they literally have it numbered on where nine of the bodies
were found, and there's just people just standing there, and it's like, no. But Belle Gunness with her children, Philip Gunness on lap, Myrtle and Lucy, they're so cute.
Mm-hmm.
They really are adorable. And then I'm putting it right below it so that way I can.
That's fine.
And of course,
the next one is them digging through the basement, and
then them digging through the fire.
Mm-hmm.
So the poles that they're holding are actually fire pokers.
Yeah.
So they look like the things that they pick up trash. I learned that.
Mm-hmm.
My ex was a.
Usually there's a point at one side and then like a kind of a hook at the other.
At the other end, yeah.
So they could grab things and yank it.
Oops. Not what I'm wanting to do. I want to make it bigger because I'm blind. So there's just people. Bodies are found at the Belle Gunness home at the fatal fire. Just people just watching.
I think there might have been authorities.
No, not the one that I'm looking at. It's the one on almost the last page. It's page 13. All that was left of Belle Gunness's home after the fatal fire in LaPorte, Indiana. Scene shows the ruins of the home and the basement where the bodies of the Gunness 3 children were found, along with the body of the headless woman. Jeez. Andrew Helgen. Oh, Andrew. He's a very handsome looking man.
Yeah, he was.
Poor Andrew. We're just going through, looking at all these photos. And of course, we're going to be putting the photos that I'm looking at here. Wherever. The teeth. Ugh.
I was like, Cat might find that interesting.
That is.
Because I know you have a thing about teeth.
I do. And those teeth are not porcelain.
Well, I mean, they were also, went through a fire. So, I mean, they kind of gnarly.
I'm pretty sure that's metal. Like some sort of... Are you okay in there? Okay.
Possibly. I don't know.
He's playing Harry Potter.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's Belle Gunness. Thanks. I hated it.
You're welcome.
I'm hoping I can edit this video and that we can, fingers crossed, if that's the case. I did not have fun today, but I enjoyed hearing about this. Not really. Stay spooky, bitches. Stay safe. Please don't answer adverts.
Or if you do, make sure that you have vetted them. And people know your location.
Let me tell you, the amount of times that I have done background histories on people that I'm dating, like, I will pay for that.
Same.
But it was funny when I started talking to my husband again, and Rachel was like, do you want me to do a background on him? I was like, no, I know his background.
I meant from the time y'all stopped talking to the present day.
Oh, no, I know everything that happened. Like, we had ours. It actually came across our my time hop, love time hop, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Came across my time hop a couple of days ago, and it was like 3 hours, 4 hours, just phone calls, just us talking about everything, just catching up. And it was good, you know. Although it's kind of funny that 7 years ago, that text I sent in the group.
Right.
I will read it to y'all because it's really funny. I was on a dating app 7 years ago, and it says, gotcha. Why, what's up? Nothing now. Haha, because he wanted to meet up that evening. And I said, sorry, I don't ever meet up right away. I need to make sure of your intentions and that you're not some deranged serial killer going to hack me into pieces. Right after I had sent that message and he had read it, because I had it open, because I was at my desk filing claims.
Yeah.
Right after that, he had blocked me and unmatched me. And I was like, good God, because I have some coop. But that is our show for today. Stay spooky, and we'll see you guys next time.
Goodbye.
Next time on the Pandemonium Witches. Now it's dropped down to 135 because of... So, yeah. Which is the same amount of people on a full 747 flight. Was a resident unemployed gun collector who went on a rampage and killed 13 people, men, women, and children, telling them, David's gone crazy. He shot me and he shot Dad. Believing the gunman had more weapons than they originally assumed, they approached and entered his premises to begin searching.
What's he saying? The cavalry has arrived.
The cavalry has arrived.